Well, the Irish bailout, despite the efforts of the Irish government, has essentially been pushed through a combination of the EU, the IMF, the Irish-owned central bank, and also the global banking investment community. Essentially, global organizations outside of Ireland have been able to essentially make the Irish government take a bailout, which will reduce the sovereignty of Ireland and greatly increase the sovereignty of the outside world into Ireland. Essentially, it may also help the Irish economy. That's yet to see. What lessons can be learned from this? One is the Irish were the first country in Europe to try to deal with this current crisis by adopting austerity measures. Okay? The thing is that given the scale of debt held by the bank, government austerity measures in and of themselves are insignificant. You cannot cut government spending in the near term and short term to cover this. The banking crisis is far, far too big. The thing that, looking through the numbers here, killed Ireland isn't the government debt. It's the fact its economy stayed so much in the doldrums. It has 13% unemployment about, and a big housing bubble, okay, that has busted. So what you have to remember here is even though a lot of these right-wing ideologues are trying to take advantage of big government debt in order to push through an ideological based belief to put to push the size of government to pre-20th century levels. Economically, this isn't going to accomplish anything in the short term. Longer term, probably governments and all of Western society needs to spend less on all levels. People need to, particularly more consumers than government, though. I mean, government debt is not nearly the problem of consumer debt. And at least when government it tends to build things like roads, and when we talk about the efficiencies of the market, the free market in the United States over the last 20 years has selected things like cheap Chinese TVs, cheap Chinese clothing, cheap Chinese sneakers, consumer junk that sits in closets, doesn't really benefit anyone and has led to global warming, the production and shipping of, and kind of meaningless, degenerate lifestyle, frankly. But in the end of this, in this particular crisis, Ireland has been. What I think you will find extremely interesting is the fact that the Tories in the UK are not going to say anything about this. Okay, before they were kind of pointing to the European debt as a justification for their own austerity measures. After seeing this, they're going to keep fairly quiet right now because it's a minefield. One, it's clear that their austerity measures in themselves, they will also not. If the UK banking sector becomes under further threat, and there's a chance that the UK economy could further degenerate, no matter what the austerity cuts are, they could still be forced to take an IMF bailout. And two, this Irish demonstrates clearly that the key first element that has to be done that really, from a in the short term economic view, that probably Gordon Brown's approach, if your goal is to keep the economic system as it is, Gordon Brown's first approach of taking on the national debt and keeping the economy afloat and trying to get to growth was right. That the Irish, first of all, tried to deal with the debt before they had gotten the economy afloat, and it's just failed. And in the consequence that Ireland and the Irish people have lost a great deal of their democratic power to outside institutions that normally throw their weight around in places like the third world.